In this video, we're going to discuss bullet graphs. Now, bullet graphs are really great. They replace the need for lots and lots of dials and other kinds of very wasteful visualization types on dashboards because they really are able to help turn numbers into metrics. They show us whether a number is good or bad. They show us how good and how bad. It's not just green, yellow, red. It's how green, how yellow, how red. And it was specifically designed by Stephen Few to replace dials on dashboards. And they are an optimal graph for dashboards. Now, a bullet graph is really just a bar chart with some decoration, all right? That's all it is. First, there is the bar which shows the level of the variable, vertical lines which are showing kind of the target that that bar is trying to achieve, and then 60, 80, 100% shading of that target. Here's an example. We see this blue bar is showing the level of the variable. The black bar is the target for this row, which happens to be California. And this shading is 80% and 60% for each of the rows in the chart. But if you really look, it's just a bar chart with decoration. Now, the nice thing is Tableau does these right out of the box. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is open up the bullet graph hands-on start file, and we will build this together. So I've now opened that file, and you see it's just a sample Superstore file like we've used many times, but there's a couple of extra fields here which we'll talk about in a second. Now, again, the key thing that we have to remember about a bullet graph is that it involves a performance level and a target, right? And in this case, we have already created these two fields. The performance level is this year, 2018 sales, the most recent year sales, and the target is the previous year sales. And year over year sales is a traditional metric. So it's really kind of easy because if you look here in Show Me, we've got a bullet graph. We need 0 or more dimensions and 2 measures. Well, these are our 2 measures. And we are going to, if you're on PC, you're going to click on 2018 sales and then hold down Control, or if you're in Mac, you're going to hold down Command. All right. So I'm holding down Control or Command. I'm clicking on 2018 sales, 2017 sales, and subcategory. And all I have to do then is go over here and click on a bullet graph, and it creates the bullet graph. We generally want to sort that, and that's as basically as simple as it gets. Now, honestly, Tableau does something that's not really standard, which is it has these column lines in there. Now we can get rid of those just by right-clicking on the graph, choosing Format, going to the lines, and getting rid of the grid lines. And now it really looks like a spec bullet graph. And if we tell it to fit the height, that kind of looks just like the example that we just looked at. Now, really what's going on? It picked one of the fields to be the columns, which is the 2018 sales. It picked another one to be the comparison, which is where the lines and the shading are coming from. And then it just created some reference lines. It created a reference line which was 20 and 80% of average 2017 sales, and one that was average 2017 sales. So the average 2017 sales is this black. The 60, 80% is this shading. Now, sometimes, and it used to happen more, but in recent versions of Tableau, I've not noticed it as much. Sometimes Tableau just gets these fields backward, right? And it puts the one that's supposed to be the performance here and the target gets up here. Well, there's a nice little feature where if you right click on the axis and you choose swap reference line fields, it just moved 2017 sales up to the columns, and it put 2018 sales in for all of the annotations, but that's not really what we want, so we'll just swap them back. Right, that's just a little trick if Tableau puts them in the wrong place. All right, now because this is really quite straightforward, let's make one from scratch rather than using show me, just so we're sure exactly what's going on. So we're going to create one from scratch. We'll create a new sheet and we'll just start dropping things where they need to be. We'll take 2018 sales and put it in columns. We'll take subcategory and put it in rows. We'll sort that. We'll tell it to fit the entire height. And then we'll drop 2017 sales. Where do we need to put that? Well, we need to use it in the visualization, but we don't necessarily want it to show in the visualization directly, so we will drop it into detail. And now we can go down here and add, and that's our first component, right? We've got our bar chart. Now we need our reference lines that are our targets, and we need our 60-80 shading. So we'll just go down here to the x-axis. We will add a reference line. It'll be a line. It'll be per cell, right? Now here, the nice thing is you can see what's going on in the background, right? Now the entire table and the pane in this case are the same, but we want one for every row, so we're going to choose per cell. Now, why are these at the end of the line, of every line? We know that's not where they're supposed to be. It's because it's using 2018 sales. We need to make it 2017 sales. Now, if you'll notice, it doesn't really matter if you pick sum or total or anything in this case because it's just one value per row. So we'll just use average, but you just as easily could have used sum. We'll get rid of the label. We will make the line a little bit thicker and we'll make it black. And we're done with that one. Now we're getting really close. The only thing we've got to add now is the 60-80 shading behind. So we will right click, add another reference line, but in this case, we're going to choose a distribution. And it by default chooses 60-80% of average, but again, it's doing it for the whole pane. We want it per cell. And it's again doing it against the bar. So we have to, this one is a little bit, it doesn't make sense why they hide this. If you click 60 to 80% of average, down here you say that it says percent of 2018 sales. We're going to change that to 2017 sales. Now, if you had business reasons for making these percentages different, like you wanted to shade it at 50, 75, or whatever targets you had, that would be fine. But a bullet graph is by definition 60 and 80%. So if you change that, it's really still a decorated bar chart, but you can't technically call it a bullet graph. I'll get rid of the label. And we will choose the fill above and fill below. And let's just for now, just for fun, use blue. And if you look, there's our bullet graph. To get rid of our our vertical lines, we choose format. We go to lines, we get rid of the grid lines, and we have a beautiful, beautiful bullet graph. And I hope you can see that the difference between just providing the bars, which gives us the level, versus giving us the target, which lets us compare each bar to its own performance, versus each bar to everybody else's performance and everybody else's relative performance, you see just how much more dense this visualization is than just a typical bar chart or a typical um, table of data, right? And so you might use a spark line and a bullet graph and a table all together. And that would be a super dense use of pixels on your dashboard.